Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Saturday, the weekend is here. I hope you're having a good one wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Thank you, as always, for joining me. I really do appreciate it. We have got plenty to get stuck into on this Saturday morning, reflecting on some of the things Mikel had to say in his press conference yesterday. We'll look at the latest team news updates from him. We'll look at his reaction to the big news yesterday, of course, that Tim Lewis would be leaving or has left Arsenal, and that Richard Garlick has now been named as CEO in that really big boardroom sort of reshuffle that none of us were really expecting, that caught plenty of us by surprise yesterday. So we'll look at that. We'll look at what he's had to say about Gabriel Martinelli, Leandro Trossard, and whether he's going to utilise that sort of buzz that they've got after their match-winning performance in midweek in the Champions League for this weekend's game against Man City. Got a couple of questions and comments from you guys. And look, I've got some things on the walls. Celebration time. There is something that is going to be going on that wall as well, but it's not arrived yet. So I'm just waiting for that. But yeah, it's starting to slowly take shape, which is nice. I hope you like it. Look, you've got the play button up. That's been waiting a long time to get put up on the wall after that arrived. So yeah, the office is taking shape, everyone. And at the moment, the broadband is holding up. Fingers crossed till the end of the video, at least. Okay, let's talk about what Mikel had to say yesterday. We'll start with the sort of team news updates. He was asked obviously about Ben White, Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, and if there was a chance. He says, if there is a chance, it will be after tomorrow's session, which is obviously today, because they haven't done anything yet. So we'll have more information tomorrow on Merino and Gyökeres because of the head injuries that they suffered in midweek in the Champions League. Mikel said they'll be fine. On Saliba and whether he's going to come back into the starting lineup for this weekend's game against United, he said, let's see. Obviously, he's been carrying an injury. He's done really well to be available for the last match, and he's really pushing for it. So we will decide tomorrow who is the best to start. Further on White, Saka and Odegaard's fitness, he says everything has been modified so far for them. There are still a few things to clear, and today, we'll have more information on whether they are part of the squad or if they have a chance to be part of the squad. So not really giving anything away, as expected, on those two. I would be very, very surprised. I mean, you never know with Mikel. He might be hiding things. You know, all the training pictures obviously were taken yesterday. We've all seen them. None of the injured guys were in that, as you would expect. And it could well be the second the cameras are away, they all came out and they all trained, and we're going to turn up at the Emirates on Sunday and they're all going to be playing. I would be surprised. I think Saliba will play, as I said, but in terms of White, Saka and Odegaard, even if they're fit or they've been past fit, if he's telling the truth and they haven't really been involved yet and doing anything, there's no way they're going to be in the starting 11 for this game. So I would be genuinely surprised. But that is what he had to say about those two. In terms of the big sort of reshuffle that I was talking about and the big news that broke yesterday that Tim Lewis would be leaving after all these years and that Richard Garlick would be CEO. We heard about new board members coming in as well. He was asked about whether the boardroom changes are going to impact him. He says, no, there have been quite a lot of changes since I arrived at the club. First of all, obviously, Tim is leaving. I would like to say a few words because he's someone who I've really enjoyed working with. I think he's made tremendous contribution to everything that we've done over the last few years. Then on Richard, congratulations. It's a massive role to be CEO of this football club, and then welcome the new board members. Hopefully they're going to make us better and help us with ideas and support for this club. It's ultimately Stan and Josh's decision, and they've been incredibly supportive. So we move on again on if he was aware about Tim Lewis and that whether he would be leaving. He said, I was aware in certain moments. I had various discussions with Josh, especially, and with the team. It's not the first time that it's happened since I've been here. Again, incredible gratitude towards Tim and what he's done for the club, what he's done for the team, for myself personally as well. Everybody in different phases of their lives requires different things. And what it means for the future, he said, it's a wonderful future. That's the only thing that I can say. I'm so positive about it. And every time I speak to Stan and Josh and how willing they are, the projection they have, the vision they have for the football club, the people that we have around it, there's no question that big things ahead. So that's what he had to say. The more I've thought about this, the more I look at it as basically Arsenal becoming more of Josh Kroenke's club rather than Stan Kroenke's club, because Tim Lewis and Stan have had that long association from way back, way before Stan came on board in official capacity at Arsenal. Him and Stan have always been very, very tight, obviously going back 2 decades. I feel that this move, with Tim moving on, with maybe Richard coming up, with Ben Winston coming in as a non-executive director on the board, who's tight with Josh as well. They're both obviously over in LA, California. It just feels like it is more of a reshaping of the board, reshaping of the club, maybe in Josh's sort of spectrum rather than stands. It's just the more I think about it, that it is just Josh getting his feet more under the table and taking more control, which I think is a good thing because Josh is obviously the younger of the two. He's a guy who's been around. He goes everywhere when he can. You know, he turns up for games. He goes away. He's very in with the women's team as well and pays a lot of attention to that, which is really, really good. Richard Garlick is the same of that. So it just feels like it is more of a remodeling of Arsenal in maybe Josh's long-term vision and people who are more aligned with Josh than people who are more aligned with Stan. So that's how I kind of view it right now. But that's what Mikel had to say on the big boardroom reshuffle that we've seen over the last 24 hours, 48 hours. And this is what he had to say on sort of whether he wants to harness a positive feeling from Martinelli and Trossard and what they did in midweek, obviously in the Champions League when they came off the bench to win the game for Arsenal. He asked, he was sort of referenced in the question about Mikel Merino and when he scored his hat-trick for Spain. And the next game, Mikel used him at Anfield and said he wanted to harness that emotion that Mikel Merino had from the hat-trick against Liverpool, against Turkey it was. And he said yes. And so he was asked, is this the same with Trossard and Martinelli? Could it be the same for this weekend? He says, yes, it certainly does, because when players are in that state, I think they have to be used and they have to be recognised. There's a lot of players in a really good moment, performing really well, and that's what we want. Whenever we need them, I'm sure they'll be at their best. It's a really big call, I think, what he makes. I don't think Trossard starts this game. I'd be very surprised. It's more, does Martinelli start ahead of Eze on the left-hand side? You know, what sort of game does Mikel expect it's going to be against Manchester City? You know, who's the fullback? You'd imagine it's going to be Calafiori at fullback. You know, will that sort of come into his mind? I mean, I asked him yesterday at the press conference about Eze and whether he sort of sees him as a touchline winger or someone who comes in more central. It's a question that didn't go down well with the masses on social media, ironically enough, because I mentioned social media in the question. But I was quite interested in it, and judging by what you guys have been saying over the last few days, I thought plenty of Arsenal fans would be interested in it. And I also kind of wanted to use that as a question to lay into the follow-up question, which is about whether, you know, how Eze plays is going to be dictated by which fullback is behind him, which he did answer as well. I still feel like Eze will play this game despite Martinelli's impact that he made off the bench. I think Mikel will look at that and think, you know what, we can use that impact off the bench again against Manchester City on Sunday. So I'd be surprised if he makes a change to that forward line. I still think it'll be Madueke, Gyökeres, and Eze on the left. And I think Trossard and Martinelli again will have to start on the bench. But it's a nice position for Mikel to be in, isn't it? When you've got players sort of chomping at the bit, and, you know, feeling good about themselves, confident, and those two will certainly be confident after what they did at the weekend. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there. I think the other team selections, you know, Saliba Mosquera is the really big one. That's the one where I'm just not so sure. I think he's going to stick with the same midfield. There is the option, obviously, of playing Ethan. I know that's a option that a lot of people want to see. I still think he's going to play with the three, with Zubimendi, Merino, and Rice. I'll be surprised if he doesn't. But it's the centre back one. That's a really intriguing one. Does he stick with Mosquera, given his fantastic performances? And he really did talk Mosquera up in the press conference, not surprisingly, because of what he's done in the last few weeks. Or does he bring Saliba back in, restore that partnership? Saliba, Gabriel up against Haaland. They've done so well against him in the past. I think that's going to be the big thing when it comes to the team selection this weekend. Obviously, please do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Right, before we move on to a couple of comments from you guys, just on this one, this was Guardiola speaking at his press conference yesterday. Now, this was going on at the same sort of time as Mikel's press conference, so we hadn't seen these quotes, so no one asked him about him. The proper mind games from Guardiola when he was talking about Arsenal, and he says they're viewed differently, or they're held in a sort of different light than Manchester City when it comes to spending. He talked about Liverpool as well and the money that they've spent. He said they decided to do it. Arsenal didn't spend a lot of money this summer. Only I want to say to my friend Mikel, if he wins the title, it will just be because he spent, not because he worked a lot with his players. It's like Liverpool. If Arne wins it again, it will be because of the money that a lot of money they've spent, right? Because it's not Man City that it happened to, right? Listen, for many, many years, every club wants to do whatever it wants. I know how we've been treated is completely different, but what he Arteta wants to spend is because they want to, and that's fine. All I can say is they have been wise. They have spent what they believe they can do to compete against the best teams in the Premier League in Europe, and they've reached that level. It's a bit of mind games from Guardiola there. I mean, honestly, it makes me laugh. I mean, I don't think he genuinely believes it. I think he's doing it for mind games. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work out why Man City are maybe being viewed and they're spending over the years, not so much now, but certainly over the years, has been viewed in a very, very different light to what other clubs have done and what Arsenal have done this summer, for example, and what Liverpool have done this summer. There's 115 reasons, Pep, why it is maybe viewed a little bit differently by a lot of fans, a lot of media, than what Man City have done compared to what everyone else has done since the takeover all those years ago, and how City have managed to put themselves into the position they are now, and how they've managed to generate now the funds that they do. You know, how that money initially was spent to get to this point. There's loads of reasons, Pep. There's 115 of them. So really it just makes me laugh. It just makes me laugh. But it is obviously just mind games ahead of the big weekend, the big game this weekend. Mikel was very glowing, as usual, when asked about Pep in his press conference. Still says he's the best manager in the world. So yeah, that was interesting, I thought, from Pep on ahead of this weekend's game. Couple of questions and comments now before we wrap this one up. Ian says, seems like Tim Lewis was brought in to do a job, sort the club out and get it back running right. Now the club needs a board that can take us forward. It can be that simple. Yeah, you may well be right. In fact, I think you probably are right. And I think Tim Lewis, who is an Arsenal fan, I believe, I'm sure he certainly is now, but I believe he was an Arsenal fan before he came in. He can be very happy with what he's done at Arsenal. And I think Arsenal, us as fans, I think we all owe him a bit of respect and thanks for what he's done, because he came in when the club was a mess behind the scenes. There was people involved who shouldn't have been involved. There was lots of stuff going on, and there was people influential in the club who really shouldn't have been influential in the club at the time. He came in and he cleaned house, and he made the club a much, much better place than it was. And so he is leaving with the club in a better place. So when you're appointed, when you take on a role that he did, that is your job first and foremost. And he's done that. So he can be very, very happy with that. Was he universally popular amongst football, within football circles? I don't think he was. I don't think he will care one little bit. And I think as I said, when he looks back on the job he's done, he can be very happy. And I do think, as I said earlier on in the show, I just feel that Arsenal now, with this board that's been put in place, I feel like it is a board that is being viewed with taking the club forward with different expertise, different skills in different areas, real estate, what that means for the stadium expansion or possible stadium expansion or possible stadium plans rather than expansion, who knows? But it's very interesting that someone with that expertise has been added to the board. Obviously, Ben Winston with his expertise in media and how that all runs, him coming on board, it feels like people with different skill sets are coming on, maybe just reshaping the board a little bit, modernizing it a little bit more in Josh Kroenke's sort of vision. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Guna72 has got in touch and says, my team for Sunday: Raya, Calafiori, Gabriel, Saliba, Timber, Zubamendi, Rice, Odegaard if fit, Ranieri if not, Martinelli his tail up, so give him a half, then bring on Eze, Gyökeres, Saka if fit, Madueke is not. Yeah, I wouldn't be too far off that. I don't think Saka's going to be fit. I don't think Odegaard's going to be fit, but you never know. If they are, maybe they make the team. Even if they are, though, I don't think you can play him against Man City. I don't think you can, especially not Saka. I just don't think you can start him against Man City. Go with who's on form. Go with who's fresh. Go who's match fit. If you need Saka off the bench for half an hour, so be it. But I wouldn't be starting him. I just don't think he's played enough or trained enough to be able to do that unless it's been kept totally under wraps, and none of us are aware of that at all. But if not, I think it's a team that I would probably go for. I am still just veering to Saliba, but the closer we get to the game, the more I'm thinking maybe he's not going to be match fit. Maybe it is better to start Mosquera. The fact that I'm having this debate, though, is a brilliant thing. And it says that Arsenal have got a player in Mosquera now that just makes me think, even if Saliba's not there, it doesn't really matter. And I never thought I'd be in that position, especially ahead again, a game against Manchester City. And that is it from me today, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'll be back tomorrow to preview the game. Enjoy the start to your weekend. I will speak to you very, very soon. Bye-bye.